The diner hummed with clinking forks and careless laughter. But in a shadowed corner, Thomas Kane sat alone, a ghost among the living. His snow-white hair caught the dim light, his thin frame hunched over a chipped glass of water. On his left wrist, a faded tattoo, a dagger piercing an anchor, gleamed faintly, its lines blurred by time. Nearby, four men at a crowded table smirked, their voices sharp. That old scribble? Bet he scratched it himself. One jeered, his words slicing through the hum. Thomas's fingers tightened, his face a mask, but his eyes burned with a buried storm, a silent plea for understanding. Outside, New Haven's Central Diner basked in Sunday morning sun, packed for Veterans Day discounts. Thomas, in a threadbare jacket, seemed a stranger among the chatter. His metal prosthetic leg, hidden beneath the table, creaked softly, a secret he didn't share. No badges graced his chest, no veteran's card sat in his wallet. To the crowd, he was invisible, a relic dismissed. Emma Reed, a young waitress, paused by the counter, her gaze lingering on Thomas. His stillness, his quiet endurance, stirred her. She'd heard tales of her grandfather, Michael Reed, a soldier lost in Vietnam, his name a whisper in her family's grief. Her fingers brushed a locket at her neck, holding Michael's initials, a talisman of loss. The men's laughter sharpened, knives in the air. Never seen a battlefield, that one, another scoffed, sipping coffee. A server approached Thomas, her voice hushed. Sir, some guests feel uneasy. Could you move outside? Thomas nodded, silent, and rose, his cane trembling in his grip. As he limped toward the door, a child's voice piped up. Why's he so slow, Dad? The father muttered. Just a drifter, son. Look away. The words cut deeper than the jeers. Thomas's shoulders sagged, a single tear tracing his weathered cheek, unseen by all but Emma, who clutched her tray, her heart twisting with unspoken questions. Then the door swung wide. Ethan Cole, a Navy SEAL, strode in, his frame taut, his haircut sharp. His eyes swept the room, then locked on Thomas's wrist. The tattoo. Ethan froze, his breath catching, as if the ink whispered a truth he knew by heart. The diner fell silent, forks stilled, the air thick with sudden weight. What did he see in that faded mark? Why did it stop him cold? Would you turn away, or stand for the truth buried beneath years of neglect? The question hung, pulling you into Thomas's world. A world of hidden scars, unspoken valor, and a tattoo ready to unravel its secrets. Thomas Kane pushed through the diner's door, the patio's harsh sunlight blinding him. His cane tapped the cracked concrete, each step a battle against gravity. His right hand gripped a tray of cold eggs and toast, the Veterans Day special he'd scraped pennies to afford. His left hand steadied his cane, the prosthetic leg beneath his worn pants groaning with every move. The tattoo on his wrist, a dagger through an anchor, pulsed faintly, its faded lines a map of pain. It wasn't just ink. It was a vow, a memory, a burden he carried alone, mocked by a world that saw only an old man's frailty. Inside, the four men at the center table chuckled, their voices shrapnel. If he's a soldier, I'm a general, one sneered, sparking laughter that stung Thomas's ears. He didn't flinch. He'd heard worse, decades of whispers branding him cripple, beggar, fake. His pension barely covered rent, let alone the prosthetics repairs, its metal joints rusted from neglect. Yet he came here to Central Diner every Veterans Day, chasing a ghost. A promise made in blood, tied to the tattoo, to a friend whose laugh still echoed in his dreams. A friend who'd never see this place again. Emma Reed watched from the window, her heart twisting. 2 weeks on the job, she'd seen cruelty masked as indifference, but Thomas's shuffle, his careful balance of tray, cane, and dignity, cut deeper. She thought of her grandfather, Michael Reed, whose name lived in her mother's stories, a soldier lost before her birth. Did he limp like Thomas? Did he carry scars, unseen? Her fingers brushed her locket, Michael's initials warm against her skin. She wanted to speak, to ask about the tattoo, but the manager's sharp glance froze her. The diner's pace, orders, complaints, clattering plates, swallowed her courage, leaving her tethered to silence. Thomas reached a rusted table, easing into a creaking chair. The food was cold, the coffee bitter, but he didn't care. Through the glass, families laughed, their warmth a world apart. The tattoo itched, pulling him to 1971, to a Laos minefield, to the explosion that stole his leg and his brother in arms. He blinked, pushing the memory down. No one here would understand. The men's voices drifted out. No veteran's card, no proof. Just a drifter with a fake tattoo. One scoffed. The manager, wiping the counter, hesitated, his eyes flickering with guilt, then turned away, choosing another customer over justice. Emma's fists clenched behind her tray. She saw her grandfather in Thomas's slumped shoulders, his silent tear. Her mother had spoken of Michael's unit, of a mark they shared, a dagger and anchor. Was it the same? She wanted to shout, to demand respect, but fear of losing her job silenced her. Thomas, unaware, stared at passing cars, his thoughts heavy with loss. Why this diner? Because Michael had loved it, had carried its photo in his pocket, a talisman against war's chaos. Thomas came to honor him, to keep a vow no one remembered, a vow etched in the tattoo's fading lines. The tattoo wasn't art. It was their unit seal, a secret shared by 8 men, now perhaps only Thomas. He traced it, feeling the weight of jungles, gunfire, screams. The diner's noise faded, replaced by ghosts of missions, the hum of a medevac he'd guided. He didn't belong here, among laughter and judgment. Yet he stayed, for Michael. His neighbors knew him as Old Tom, the man who fixed bikes for free, who smiled through pain. They didn't know the tattoo's story, the lives it saved, the friend it mourned. He'd mended their cars, taught their kids, but never spoke of the war. The tattoo his only confession. A patron inside, an elderly woman with trembling hands, glanced out, her eyes softening. She'd seen veterans like Thomas, dismissed, discarded. She whispered to her husband, "That man's no drifter." But her voice drowned in the din. A young father, holding his son, noticed Thomas's tear, his heart stirring. The manager, sensing the mood shift, wiped his hands nervously, torn between order and shame. Emma, clearing a table, stole another look, her locket warm. The tattoo was a puzzle, a link to her past, its pull growing stronger with every glance. The door creaked. Footsteps approached, heavy, deliberate. Thomas didn't look up, expecting another jab. But the air shifted, charged with purpose. Ethan Cole stood at the patio's edge, his gaze locked on Thomas's wrist. The tattoo. His eyes widened, a spark flaring. "Sir," he said, voice steady but reverent, "were you with SEAL Team Delta?" Thomas's heart stuttered. The question cracked a sealed door, and the diner's mockery began to unravel. The tattoo, once a silent scar, was about to speak, its truth ready to ignite the shadows of neglect. Ethan Cole's question, "Were you with SEAL Team Delta?" hung in the patio's still air, a spark in the silence. Thomas Kane sat rigid, the metal chair cold against his back, his fingers grazing the tattoo. The dagger through the anchor wasn't just ink. It was a chain, binding him to a past he'd buried. Jungles flashed in his mind. Gunfire, sweat, the weight of a wounded man on his shoulders. He nodded, barely, his throat tight. "Long ago," he rasped, voice rough as sandpaper. The words heavy with years of unspoken grief and quiet endurance. Ethan stepped closer, his boots scuffing the concrete, his frame taut with purpose. The diner's noise seeped through the glass. Clinking dishes, muffled laughs. But out here, it was just them, bound by a mark. Thomas's prosthetic creaked, pain pulsing through the stump. He'd lived with it since 1971, a reminder of the day he lost everything. The tattoo, though, was heavier. It carried Michael Reed, the friend who'd laughed through war's dark, who'd dreamed of this diner's burgers. Thomas's mind drifted to that final mission. The explosion's roar, Michael's still form in the dust. his photo of the diner crumpled in his vest. Emma Reed, by the window, caught the exchange, her breath hitching. Ethan's tone wasn't pity. It was reverence. She thought of her grandfather's letters, tucked in a drawer. Their ink faded like Thomas's tattoo. Michael had written of a brother, T9, who'd saved him once, who'd carried the team. Was Thomas that man? Her locket burned against her chest. Michael's initials a silent plea. She wanted to run out, to ask, but the diner's chaos held her. Customers snapping, plates clattering. A patron, a young mother, glanced at the patio, whispering to her friend, "That old man's got a story." Her words were lost, but the sentiment lingered, a ripple in the crowd's indifference. Thomas's eyes met Ethan's, searching. The SEAL's face was earnest, his jaw set. "You're Kane T9, aren't you?" Ethan asked, voice low but firm. Thomas froze. T9. His call sign. A ghost from training camps. A legend he'd never claimed. How did this boy know? The tattoo had betrayed him, pulling his past into the light. He wanted to deny it, to retreat, but Ethan's gaze held him. The diner's mockery, the men's laughter, the server's dismissal, faded, drowned by truth's weight. Memories flooded. Nights under hostile skies, Michael's voice promising peace. The medevac's hum he'd guided through static, saving 5 lives while bleeding. Inside, the 4 men shifted, uneasy. They'd heard Ethan's question, seen his intensity. One muttered, "What's the kid on about?" But the others stayed silent, sensing a shift. The manager, wiping his hands, glanced over, unease flickering in his eyes. He'd dismissed Thomas, sent him outside, but now doubt gnawed at him. Emma, pouring coffee, stole another look. Thomas's face, etched with pain and pride, told a story she hadn't seen. Her mother's words echoed, "Your grandfather died for men like him." The tattoo wasn't just Thomas's. It was Michael's, her history, a bridge to a past she longed to touch. Thomas's mind churned. He hadn't spoken of Delta in years. Classified missions left no medals, no parades. He'd returned to a country that scorned veterans, opened a garage in Colorado, fixed cars for the poor, taught kids to weld. Never once did he mention the war. The tattoo was his confession, a vow to Michael hidden under sleeves. A yellowed letter from his commander, tucked in his wallet, read, "Thank you to the most silent soldier I've ever commanded." Now this SEAL saw him. Thomas wanted to warn Ethan of war's cost, but words failed. The tattoo burned, a beacon drawing them together. The crowd inside grew quieter, sensing change. An elderly man, his veteran's cap faded, watched the patio, his eyes wet. He whispered to his wife, "That's no drifter out there." His words carried weight, stirring a trucker, a teacher, a teen. The manager, nervous, stepped closer to the window, torn between order and guilt. He'd sent Thomas outside, believing the complaints, but Ethan's words shook him. Emma, stacking plates, felt the tension, the truth hovering. Her locket, warm against her skin, urged her to act, to bridge the gap between Thomas's tattoo and her grandfather's legacy. Ethan stood tall, hands clenched, as if holding back a tide. Thomas felt exposed, his past clawing free. The tattoo, once his secret, was now a spark, ready to ignite. Emma's gaze met his through the glass, her locket a mirror to his ink. The 4 men's bravado crumbled, one slipping toward the door, head low. The diner's walls seemed to close in, the air thick with anticipation. Something was coming, something bigger than Thomas, than Ethan, than Emma. The tattoo held the key, and its truth was about to break free, ready to shatter the shadows of neglect. Ethan's question lingered, a spark in the patio's hush. Thomas Kane's gaze fell to the tattoo, its dagger and anchor a scar of sacrifice. He was 80 now, but in 1971, he'd been a logistics technician for SEAL Team Delta, a shadow among shadows. His role wasn't combat, not the kind that earned glory. He mapped routes, secured supplies, guided teams through hostile lands with hand-drawn charts and a memory sharper than steel. Yet his precision saved lives, his calm under fire a lifeline. The tattoo was his badge, shared by 8 men. A unit forged in blood. Its mark a vow to never break. A silent oath to carry on. In Laos, Thomas had navigated a supply run through a minefield. His maps the team's only guide. Michael Reed, his closest friend, walked point, his laugh a beacon in the dark. They were 8 miles from safety when the ground erupted. The blast tore Thomas's leg, shattered his world. Through pain's haze he saw Michael's body still as the medic worked on him. For others were wounded, but Thomas, bleeding, radioed the medevac, his voice steady despite chaos. His coordinates brought the chopper through enemy fire. 5 men lived because of him. Michael didn't. The tattoo, etched soon after, was their pact, a promise to honor the fallen, to keep the diner's dream alive. The diner's patio faded as Thomas's mind replayed that day. No hero's welcome waited at home. Vietnam veterans were ghosts, their stories buried in classified files. Thomas settled in Colorado, opened a garage, fixed cars for free, taught kids trades. Neighbors knew him as Old Tom, the man with the limp and kind eyes, who never missed a good morning. They didn't know his scars came from dragging wounded men from flames, or that his sleepless nights echoed with Michael's voice. The tattoo, hidden under sleeves, was his only link to that life. Its dagger and anchor a silent prayer, a weight he carried alone. Emma, wiping a table inside, felt a chill. She'd found Michael's letters last week. Yellowed pages describing T9, a brother who'd carried the team. The tattoo Thomas wore. Could it be the mark Michael sketched? Her locket, with Michael's initials, felt heavy, urging her to act. She wanted to ask Thomas, to bridge the gap, but the diner's rush, spilled drinks, loud orders, kept her moving. The 4 men were quieter now, their bravado dimmed by Ethan's presence. One whispered, "What's that tattoo mean?" The question hung, as the manager hovered, sensing trouble. His earlier dismissal a shadow over his thoughts. Thomas's thoughts churned. He'd never sought recognition. The tattoo was for Michael, for the promise made the night before that mission. "Burgers at Central Diner," Michael had said, grinning, his photo of the place tucked in his vest. Thomas kept that promise yearly, sitting here sipping coffee, remembering. The tattoo was their unit's mark, a secret he thought only he carried. His neighbors saw a kind old man, not the soldier who'd saved 17 men in Operation Nightfall, whose routes were still taught. The letter in his wallet from his commander was his only proof, its words a quiet testament to his silence. Ethan's eyes never left the tattoo. In SEAL training, he'd heard of T9, the logistics genius who turned chaos into order. The tattoo was Delta's mark, a standard Ethan chased. Seeing it here on this broken man shook him. He remembered nights in the rain, instructors shouting T9's name, the tattoo's sketch a symbol of sacrifice. The diner's mockery, the men's sneers, the manager's apathy. They were an insult to the mark, to Thomas, to Ethan's oath. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding with duty, with the need to right this wrong. Inside, the crowd stirred. An elderly woman, her hands trembling, whispered to her son, "My father was Navy. That man's like him." Her words rippled, touching a trucker, a teacher, a teen. The manager, sweating, felt the shift, his earlier dismissal await. Emma, stacking plates, saw Thomas's pain, Ethan's fire. Her locket burned, Michael's letters a call. The tattoo wasn't just ink. It was a reckoning, a story ready to explode. A young couple, holding hands, leaned forward, sensing change. The diner's air thickened, every eye on the patio, where the truth teetered, ready to blaze. Ethan's next move would light the fuse. Thomas felt exposed, the tattoo a scream. Emma's gaze held hope, her locket a mirror. The 4 men's table grew silent, their shame a shadow. The manager stepped closer, nervous, his hands shaking. The crowd leaned in, sensing a storm. The tattoo, once a joke, was now a beacon, its dagger and anchor ready to rewrite the diner's story, to shatter the silence of neglect. Thomas Kane's fingers traced the tattoo, its dagger and anchor a lifeline to Michael Reed. Central Diner wasn't just a place. It was a shrine, a promise kept through decades of loss. In 1971, Michael had carried a crumpled photo of this diner, his voice bright with dreams. "When we're home, Tom, first rounds on me," he'd said, hours before the minefield claimed him. Thomas survived, but the blast took more than his leg. It took the man who'd made war bearable. The tattoo, their unit's mark, was all he had left. Its lines a map of grief, loyalty, and unspoken vows. Every Veterans Day, Thomas came here, not for discounts, but for Michael. He'd sit, order coffee, let memories flood. Michael's laugh, his quick grin, his photo of the diner tucked in his vest. The tattoo was his anchor, grounding him in a world that forgot. He'd never told anyone, not his neighbors, not the kids he taught. The ink was his confession, his guilt for living when Michael didn't. Today, on the patio, the tattoo felt heavier, as if Michael's ghost watched, waiting. Thomas's eyes stung, the diner's noise a distant hum. His heart locked in 1971, replaying the explosion's roar, the medevac's hum, the silence of loss. Emma, clearing plates inside, couldn't shake Thomas's image. Her grandfather's letters mentioned a dagger and anchor tattoo, a symbol of his team. She'd never seen it, but Thomas's wrist, his quiet pain, felt familiar. Her mother had said Michael died in Laos saving others. Was Thomas there? Her locket, with Michael's initials, felt warm, a call to act. She wanted to run to the patio to demand answers, but the diner's rush, spilled drinks, loud orders, held her. She stole glances, seeing Ethan's intensity, Thomas's stillness. The tattoo was a puzzle, and she held a piece, her heart racing with the need to know. Ethan Cole stood firm, his gaze locked on Thomas. The tattoo wasn't standard seal ink. It was Delta's, a mark of a unit that rewrote the rules. In training, Ethan had heard of T9, the man who navigated hell, who saved lives with maps and grit. The tattoo was his proof, a relic of valor. Ethan's heart pounded. This wasn't chance, it was duty. He remembered nights in the rain, instructors shouting T9's name, the tattoo's sketch a symbol of sacrifice. The diner's mockery, the men's sneers, the manager's apathy. They were an insult to the mark, to Thomas, to Ethan's oath to honor those who paved the way. Inside, the four men's laughter died. Ethan's presence, his question, had shifted the room. One muttered, "What's so special about that tattoo?" But the others shushed him, sensing a storm. The manager, wiping sweat, hovered near the counter, torn between order and truth. A patron, a retired cop, leaned forward, whispering to his wife, "That kid's a SEAL. He knows something." The word spread, touching a nurse, a student, a vet. Emma, stacking plates, felt the tension rise. The tattoo wasn't just Thomas's. It was her grandfather's, her history, a call she couldn't ignore, urging her to step into the light. Thomas's mind reeled. Ethan's recognition cracked his silence, pulling him to Laos, to Michael's laugh, to the explosion's roar. The tattoo was their bond, a vow to never forget. He'd kept it hidden, let the world see an old man, not a soldier. His neighbors, who saw only old Tom, never knew the tattoo's weight, the lives it saved, the friend it mourned. He'd fixed their cars, their bikes, their hopes, but never spoke of Delta, of Michael. The letter in his wallet from his commander was his only testament, its words a quiet echo of his service. The patio's air crackled, the truth a spark. Ethan took a step, his voice low but clear. "Sir, you're the one they teach us about. T9, Operation Nightfall." The words hit Thomas like a bullet, sharp, undeniable. The diner's noise faded, the men's faces paled, Emma's tray trembled. The tattoo, once a secret, was now a beacon, drawing every eye. A trucker inside nudged his friend. "That old man's a hero. Bet on it." The manager's hands shook, his earlier dismissal a weight. The crowd leaned in, the tattoo no longer a joke but a reckoning, its story ready to explode into the light. Ethan Cole's voice cut through the patio's silence, a blade of truth. "You're T9, sir. SEAL Team Delta." Thomas Kane's breath caught, the tattoo on his wrist burning under Ethan's gaze. The dagger and anchor, once a private vow, stood exposed, a truth too heavy to hide. Thomas's eyes flicked to Ethan's. Young, fierce, unyielding. This seal knew, and there was no retreat. The diner's glass wall vanished, the patio no longer a refuge, the tattoo a flare in the dark, calling forth a past Thomas had buried. Ethan stepped closer, his boots echoing purpose. He snapped to attention, a crisp salute slicing the air. "Sir, it's an honor," he said, voice steady but thick with awe. The gesture was a spark, igniting the diner's quiet. Inside, forks stilled, heads turned. The four men froze, their smirks gone. One coughed, red-faced, as Ethan's salute held, unwavering. The manager, clutching a rag, gaped, caught off guard. Emma Reed, by the door, felt her pulse race. The tattoo, she knew now, was her grandfather's mark, Michael Reed's legacy etched in Thomas's skin, a bridge to a past she'd only read about. Thomas's hand trembled, gripping his cane. He hadn't been saluted in decades, hadn't been seen. The tattoo, his link to Michael, had betrayed him, pulling his past into the light. He wanted to deflect, but Ethan's respect pinned him. "No need for that, son," he rasped, voice breaking. Ethan didn't move, his salute a bridge across years. The diner's air thickened, every eye on the patio, where an old man and a young seal stood bound by ink. A patron, a veteran with a faded cap, nodded, his eyes wet, whispering, "That's real, right there." His words a quiet testament to Thomas's truth. Inside, the mood shifted. An elderly woman rose, clapping slowly, her hands trembling. A family followed, then a row of patrons, their applause a wave. The four men shrank, one slipping toward the door, head low. Emma's eyes stung. She saw her grandfather in Thomas's face, his pain, his pride. Michael's letters, tucked in her memory, were real, and Thomas was proof. She stepped forward, ignoring the manager's frown, drawn to the patio's truth. The tattoo was no mystery. It was a call, a vow shared across generations, urging her to act, to honor her blood. Ethan turned to the diner, his voice rising. "This man's no drifter. He's a legend." He pointed to Thomas's wrist, the tattoo gleaming. "That mark's earned in blood, not a parlor. T9 saved lives, 17 men in nightfall." The words hit like thunder, silencing the room. Coffee cups paused, breaths held. The manager flinched, shame flickering. The four men's table was empty now, their bravado fled. Emma's tray slipped, clattering, but she didn't care. Thomas was her grandfather's brother, and Ethan was his voice, speaking truth to a room that had forgotten. Thomas's chest tightened. Ethan's words tore open wounds. Michael's laugh, the minefield's roar, the medevacs hum. The tattoo was his shame, his survival, his vow. He'd never wanted glory, only to honor Michael, to keep the diner's promise. Yet Ethan's fire warmed him. The applause grew, a tide of respect washing over the patio. A young father, holding his son, whispered, "That's a hero kid." A nurse, wiping tears, nodded, her own father a veteran. The manager, pale, stepped closer, his earlier dismissal a weight he couldn't shake, his heart stirring with regret. Emma reached the patio, her voice soft. "Sir, I think you knew my grandfather." Thomas's eyes widened, meeting hers. The tattoo linked them, her Ethan, Michael, the past. A trucker inside clapped, his calloused hands loud, urging others to join. The diner's walls echoed with respect. The tattoo no longer mocked but revered. Thomas squeezed Ethan's arm. A silent, "Thank you." The crowd's applause swelled, a community stirring, ready to right its wrongs. The tattoo, a faded mark, had sparked a reckoning. Its dagger and anchor a symbol of valor no one could deny. Ethan Cole stood at the diner's heart, his voice a clarion call. "Thomas Kane's no ordinary man," he declared, eyes sweeping the crowd. "His tattoo, dagger through anchor, is SEAL Team Delta's mark. He's T9, the man who saved 17 lives in Operation Nightfall. The words crashed over the diner, silencing every whisper. Forks froze, eyes locked on Ethan, then Thomas, whose tattoo gleamed on the patio. The ink, once a jest, roared with truth, its lines a testament to blood, sacrifice, and a legacy that refused to fade. Thomas sat still, his cane trembling. Ethan's speech ripped through his silence, exposing the tattoo's weight. He saw Michael Reed's face, heard his laugh, felt the minefield's blast. In 1971, Thomas had mapped routes, guided medevacs, saved men while bleeding. His logistics, dismissed as not combat, were the team's lifeline. The tattoo was his proof, shared with Michael and 6 others, a vow to never forget. Now, Ethan's voice made it undeniable, a beacon in the diner's haze. Thomas's chest tightened, memories flooding. Nights under fire, Michael's photo of the diner, the promise they'd never keep. Inside, the crowd stirred. An elderly man nodded, eyes wet, remembering his own war. A mother clutched her son, whispering of heroes. The 4 men's table was empty, their shame fled with them. Emma Reed, by the patio door, felt her heart pound. Ethan's words painted her grandfather's world. Michael, Thomas, the tattoo. She saw it now. Thomas was the brother from the letters, the man who'd carried Michael's dream. Her locket, with Michael's initials, burned, a call to act. She stepped closer, ignoring the manager's nervous glance, her heart racing with purpose. Ethan pressed on, voice fierce. T9's routes, his maps, they're in our manuals. He saved lives not with a gun, but with grit. That tattoo's his medal earned in blood. The diner's air crackled, every word a spark. The manager, pale, stepped forward, voice shaky. Sir, we misunderstood. Your meal's free, and you're welcome anytime. Thomas shook his head, a faint smile. Just here for a friend, he said, the tattoo pulsing with Michael's memory. The crowd murmured, respect growing. A teacher whispering to her friend, we've got to honor men like him. Emma crossed the patio, her voice trembling. Mr. Kane, my grandfather was Michael Reed. Thomas's breath caught, his eyes searching hers. The tattoo linked them. Michael's laugh, Emma's eyes, the diner's promise. He wrote about you, she said, pulling a letter from her apron. Its ink as faded as the tattoo. Thomas's hand shook, touching the paper. Michael, he whispered, the name a prayer. The diner watched, silent, as past and present collided. A young couple, holding hands, wiped tears, moved by the reunion. A veteran, his cap faded, stood, clapping slowly, urging others to join. Ethan knelt beside Thomas. Sir, may I sit? I'd hear about Michael. Thomas nodded, and they took the diner's best table, not the patio's exile. The crowd parted, respect a tangible force. Emma joined them, her letter a bridge. The tattoo, once mocked, now shown. A symbol of lives saved, promises kept. The diner's mood shifted, shame to awe, ignorance to honor. The manager hung a sign. Veterans honored here. Patrons clapped, some weeping, as Thomas's story spread. A trucker vowed to tell his buddies. A student snapped a photo, the tattoo's image already viral. The truth was out, justice served in applause, in tears, in promises. The tattoo, a silent mark, had sparked a reckoning. Ethan's voice, Emma's truth, Thomas's silence. They wove a tapestry of valor, pulling the diner from apathy to action. The community stirred, ready to right its wrongs, to honor the unseen. The tattoo's story, once hidden, now sang, a call to remember, to rise. The diner stood transformed, its walls echoing with respect, its heart beating with the tattoo's truth. Thomas Kane sat at the diner's best table, Ethan Cole and Emma Reed beside him. The tattoo on his wrist, a dagger through an anchor, gleamed under the light, no longer a secret. Emma's letter, yellowed and worn, lay between them. Michael Reed's words a bridge across decades. He called you T9, she said, voice soft. Said you saved him. Saved them all. Thomas's eyes misted. The tattoo a pulse of memory. Michael's grin, the minefield, the promise of this diner. He saw Michael's face, heard his laugh, felt the weight of surviving when his friend didn't. Ethan listened, his respect a quiet fire. Sir, your stories in our training. Nightfall, your routes, their legend, he said, his voice thick with awe. Thomas shook his head, humble. Just did my job, he said. But the tattoo told more. It was Delta's mark, a vow with Michael and 6 others. A unit that faced hell and came home broken. Thomas had carried it alone, thinking no one remembered. Now Ethan's salute, Emma's letter proved otherwise. The tattoo was their bond, their truth. Its lines a map of valor etched in blood, a testament to silent service. The diner's crowd watched, hushed. The manager, chastened, brought fresh coffee, his apology sincere. We'll make this right, he said, but Thomas waved it off. No need. Just let me remember. His voice cracked. The tattoo a tether to Michael, to the burgers they'd never share. Emma touched his hand, her eyes like her grandfather's. He'd be proud, she said, and Thomas nodded, the weight of years lifting. The tattoo, once his burden, now shared its light. A young mother, holding her daughter, whispered, "That's what heroes look like." Her words a ripple through the crowd, stirring hearts. Patrons stirred, their apathy gone. An elderly woman approached, voice trembling. "My brother was Navy. Thank you." Others followed, offering handshakes, stories, tears. A veteran, his cap faded, shared a tale of his own war. His eyes locked on Thomas's tattoo. The 4 men's absence was a silent apology, their mockery erased. The manager pledged free meals for veterans. A start. Emma, serving coffee, felt her grandfather's presence. The tattoo a link to his sacrifice to Thomas's. A student, snapping photos, posted the tattoo online, its image spreading, a spark of change that lit up screens across the nation. Thomas spoke softly, telling Ethan and Emma of Michael, the joker, the dreamer, the man who'd carried this diner's photo. "He wanted us here," Thomas said, the tattoo warm under his touch. "I kept coming for him." Emma's letter described the same. Michael's love for this place, his bond with T9. The tattoo wove their stories, a thread through time. The diner, once a place of shame, became a sanctuary, its walls echoing with respect. A trucker vowed to spread Thomas's story. A teacher planned a lesson on silent heroes, their actions a testament to the tattoo's power. Ethan vowed to return to learn more. "You're why we fight, sir," he said, his salute a promise. Emma, too, pledged to honor her grandfather, to keep Thomas's story alive. The tattoo, a mark of loss, sparked connection, a family forged in truth. The diner's lights seemed brighter, the air warmer, as the community embraced its hero. The tattoo's story, once silent, now sang, a call to remember, to rise. The truth had broken free, justice served in applause, in tears, in promises, the tattoo a symbol of valor, of vows kept across generations. Thomas Kane's story didn't end at the diner. A photo of Ethan's salute, Thomas's tattoo gleaming, went viral, shared millions of times. New Haven rallied, visiting Thomas's garage, where he fixed cars and lives. Kids sent letters, begging his stories. Veterans found solace in his quiet. The tattoo, once mocked, became a symbol, etched on a town hall plaque, "Honor the Silent." The street by his shop was renamed Valor Way, for Thomas, for all who served unseen. His story woke a town, its heart beating with respect, its people changed by a single moment of truth. Years later, Thomas's funeral drew hundreds, Ethan and 5 SEALs carrying his coffin, the tattoo's design pinned to their chests. A new prosthetic, gifted by a veterans group inspired by his story, lay with him, a final honor. His tombstone read, "His silence spoke, his valor shined." Emma, now a writer, shared Michael and Thomas's story, her words a tribute to the tattoo's promise. The diner became a pilgrimage site, its walls lined with veteran photos, a testament to Thomas's rise, to the power of one mark that refused to fade. This is the power of truth of a faded tattoo. Thomas fell, humiliated, forgotten. The tattoo revealed his valor, Ethan's voice its spark. The rise, New Haven's awakening, a legacy of honor, shows what's possible when we see the silent heroes among us. The tattoo, a dagger through an anchor, binds us to courage, to promises kept, to lives saved in shadow. It asks, will you honor the unseen, the broken, the brave? Daily Narrated Stories brings you tales like Thomas's, stories of grit, heart, and truth that change how we see the world. Join us. Share honor in the comments to salute every veteran, seen or unseen. Subscribe now, and let's keep their stories alive, lighting the way for hope, for justice, for a world that remembers.